Breaking news. Ukraine is reaching a new level of armaments. It's no longer just Nectons and Flamingos. Technological. Breaking news. Ukraine is reaching a new level of armaments. It's no longer just...
Ukrainian engineers have developed advanced weapons that are striking Russian positions, causing panic in the Kremlin. The SBU chief announced Ukraine destroyed a Russian Oreshnik on Russian territory, but the weapon used remains undisclosed. More details in the report. Is expanding significantly every year. Ukraine is successfully using Neptune and Flamingo missiles together to strike Russia. President Volodymyr Zelensky told journalists about this and noted that while this is not widespread use yet, there are already the first tangible results regarding these weapons.
Ukraine is using Neptune and Flamingo missiles together against Russia, and President Zelensky says there are already some results. The president also
mentioned the use of the Polyanitia drone missile, which has already struck enemy military depots dozens of times. The second positive trend Zelensky highlighted was the use of the Ruta drone missile, which for the first time flew 250
kilometers and struck a sea platform. We have quite a few developments specifically in drone missiles. There are analysts who say that these are all just small cruise missiles. I don't quite agree with that for one simple reason. Usually a cruise missile is something that has some kind of wing mechanism. That is, the missile is launched either from the air or from the ground. Then these wings open up and they create aerodynamic lift, which allows However, the greatest success of the Ukrainians is considered to be
the widespread and extensive use of the so-called kamikaze Lyuty drone, which is an unmanned aerial vehicle, and which numbered up to as many as 300 in total.
UAVs.
Ukraine's naval drones are unlike Shahed and can now hit targets over 1,500 kilometers away. They were first used in the year 2022, specifically during an attack that was carried out against the ships of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. This significant event took place in the waters near Sevastopol, a port city located on the Crimean Peninsula.
In the Sevastopol Bay, a location of considerable strategic importance. Since that time, these drones have been steadily evolving and improving, with each new version incorporating incremental advancements in technology and design. Since August of this year in particular, there has been a marked increase in their development and deployment activities.
It was announced that the serial production of the Flamingo missile capable of striking targets at a distance of 3,000.
The enemy is paralyzed? What secret development is changing the rules of the game right now? Watch this. Reconnaissance, fire adjustment, and target destruction using dropped munitions. The Chinese drone Mavic is almost the main weapon of the Ukrainian armed forces in the war against the occupier. And now, Ukrainian industry has begun supplying domestically produced UAVs of the Mavic type. Enemy paralyzed, secret tech changes warfare.
The Chinese Mavic drone is key for Ukraine. Now Ukraine is making its own version for the war.
We have already delivered 1,000. There have been huge problems. China has banned the sale of these drones, claiming that they are not intended for military purposes. Because of this, the drones must be purchased from third-party sources instead of directly from Chinese manufacturers.
Parties. Has
the name Shmavik, but despite the ironic name, it has already passed certification and boasts some serious capabilities. Shmavik is positioned as a tactical reconnaissance drone designed to carry out operational tasks on the front line. Unlike the civilian Mavic, which is mainly used for aerial photography and videography, the Shmavik is built for combat conditions. It has an operational range of up to 15 kilometers and a flight duration of up to 60 minutes.
Now, the manufacturers have already completed certification of Ukrainian Mavics and have set up production.
Minutes and has a reliable, interference-resistant navigation system. Last year, the government aimed to replace Chinese drones. Now, Ukrainian Mavics are certified and in production. But replacing all drones in Ukraine soon is not possible. Our weapons manufacturers already have
including Luger, Potel, Yaitia, and the German Shmavik. They are larger than DJI Mavic drones and are equipped with long-range communication. They are resistant to interference and cost more, but they
can actually turn out to be more economical thanks to their greater reliability. For us, the key metric is not the price per drone, but the cost of a single mission. While a typical Mavic performs about 60 missions per drone, our systems on average complete around 300 missions per unit. With a comparable purchase price, the cost per mission is 5 times lower, which means that military units can... It happened!
Putin announced total mobilization and year-round conscription. He said independent UAV production is vital for war, as Ukraine knows. Even reservists. What does this mean? Actual martial law for all of Russia. All the secret details of the decree.
By Putin. Watch this. The cannon fodder conveyor. Putin signed a law on year-round conscription
into the Russian army. We feel confident, stable, and despite certain losses, which of course will be due to many circumstances. The new
law allows military enlistment officers to operate without interruption, and dodging service will become even harder.
Well done. Victory.
Absolutely. Victory will be... Optimism will soon fade for these heroes. Never join the special military operation. You will lose people, many already gone, and more will be lost because of Putin. Army recruitment is now year-round from January 1st to December 31st. No exceptions.
During the
Russia's new draft rules require reporting within 30 days, reflecting heavy losses and failed military goals. Well, already now.
raids are taking place across the territory of the Russian Federation. First and foremost, they have affected citizens of the Central Asian republics. In addition, it should be noted that this decree will lead to an increase in the number of Russians who will leave the territory of the occupying country. Let me remind you, as a result of the so-called first wave of partial mobilization, the territory This is already happening across the territory of the Russian Federation. At the same time,
Putin signed another law that allows reservists to be involved in guarding critically important infrastructure facilities. Russian media note that this concerns. At the same time, Putin signed another law that allows reservists to be involved in guarding critically important infrastructure facilities. Russian
media note that this is about strengthening control over military and energy structures. Apparently, this is precisely about the covert nature of the mobilization. That is under the guise of involving reservists, those citizens of the Russian Federation who are part of the so-called combat reserve and have signed the relevant documents with the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation. Apparently, they will be sent directly to the line of combat contact. In other words, strategic facilities will now be guarded by the Federation, who are part of the so-called combat reserve and have signed the relevant
documents with the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation. Apparently, they will be sent directly to the front line. That is, strategic facilities will now be protected right at the zero line. Simply put, Putin's new rules effectively legalize year-round raids and constant pressure on conscripts. And while the Kremlin dictator from
his warm and inviting office makes decisions and tells stories
about how Russians are allegedly lining up voluntarily, apparently waiting in line, as has been reported, to participate in the process.
To go fight. Our guys, they go voluntarily, they go on their own. We have 50 to 60,000 a month coming on their own. At the front, Russian soldiers cursed the day. Some were lured by money, but ended up with nothing. Others were simply deceived and thrown in as cannon fodder. My head got straight real quick.
It only took me literally 3 or 4 days to understand the essence of the situation.
Months to figure out what was really going on there. I'd rather get caught, go to prison, or something else, but I won't go there. Since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the aggressor country Russia has lost about 1.5 million soldiers. Since the beginning of 2025, 336,000 citizens of the Russian Federation have signed contracts with the Russian armed forces. And now, attention, according to British estimates, the losses of Russian occupiers from January to November amounted to 353,000 servicemen. In other words, the losses of the Russian army are much higher than its ability to replenish its personnel. So the issue of replenishing personnel through volunteers, even with material incentives, no matter how many
troops the Kremlin sends to Ukraine, here they will only find defeat and death. And the Russian ruler understands this perfectly well. But by and large, he doesn't care. No matter how many troops the Kremlin
sends to Ukraine, here they will only find defeat and death. And the Russian ruler understands this perfectly well, but in the end, he simply doesn't care. Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.